y'all ready then? Here we go. Call to order the regular meeting of the Carrabelle Community Redevelopment Agency. It's Tuesday, April 16, 2019. It's 1:36 p.m. We will ask Mr. Commissioner Tony Millender to please say the invocation, and then we'll say the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Stand, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together this afternoon to conduct our business here within the city, CRA committee. Thank you for bringing us together safely. Help direct us in a positive and favorable manner. Guide us in the right directions to make wise and positive decisions. And thank you for all your assistance and help in an endeavor we carry throughout the city. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have roll call. We have Commissioner Millender, Mr. Bo May, Mayor LaPaz, and Mr. Rob Powis today. And if you all don't mind, I'm just going to ask for a table on the minutes. Ms. Keisha, it slipped her mind, and actually it slipped my mind too. I'll usually remind you if they haven't come out, and we haven't had an opportunity to review. Is that okay if we table? Okay. Could I have a motion to table approval of the minutes until our next meeting?
I'll make a motion to table the meeting or the minutes.
Okay, and a second, please. Okay. And so that's the motion by Mr. Powis, and second by Mr. May. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And we'll move right into staff reports. Ms. Courtney.
We've submitted our paperwork for our reimbursement for the land water conservation grant. I didn't bring that number with you. I believe it's about $164,000, so that would be 50% reimbursement, around 82.
I've got it. It's on our budget there.
84,291.73. So that's in the process, and I'm not sure how long it takes, but it's been submitted for a couple of weeks now, so it should be here shortly. Progress on the FEMA reimbursement for repairs at the old Coast Guard dock. I just spoke with the FEMA lady this morning. We only got one bid on that, but she said that all I have to do is submit that. I've put it out to bid to several people and no one's responded but the one, and we can go ahead with that project and get that repaired. And that's the handicap dock at the Coast Guard. So the 12th Street Fishing Pier, I'm still waiting on a bid in on that one. Any question?
The one at the Coast Guard dock is one that you and I talked about that's in the water, that part of it.
He believes there's more damage to it that when he gets it out. This is Mr. Godfrey, that he's doing some work for the History Museum now. That he looked at it and he believes that it's going to need more repairs. He believes that it has some sort of float or something on it, on the bottom of it, that may have been punctured, but he really, until he gets it out and looks at it, we don't know.
And will FEMA work with you on that if there's...
Yes.
Okay.
I told her this morning what the bid was I got on it, but that it could be more, and she said that's fine, that they understand that.
Okay. And then on the 12th Street Fishing Pier, the original contractor is aware that it's up for bid, that it needs to be
Yes,
bid?
he hasn't bid it. He's had the bid information for several weeks, and he hasn't turned anything in.
It's a shame.
And not only that, but all of the list of projects he picked up the specs, and he hasn't bid any of them.
Well, you know, it's making getting work done kind of difficult. I know some of the experiences we're having here at the city level, but also just to share one real quick, I've been trying to get some work done with my permit, my barn. And recently, as recently as this last week, I finally found someone that would build doors to what I need. And they normally build and install. They told me flat out that I would be 5 weeks if I ordered today, getting them built. But they were not interested in installing because they were 6 months to 10 months behind. They were not interested in installing.
That's a lot of what I'm getting.
I'm hearing it with permitting, so.
Makes it difficult with us here at the city because we're reimbursements.
But I do wanna go ahead and push forward with the old Coast Guard dock, because it's used in the summertime and it's our season's just starting, and I believe we really need to get that one repaired.
And the fishing, but both of them though, the longer they sit in the water or in disrepair, they just get in worse and worse condition. They're not getting better. So, all right, well, thank you. And Mr. Hartman, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
Do y'all have questions for Mr. Hartman? Okay. Public comment. And I know Mr. Lewis Christie is here to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
I found out for you. I'm Lewis Christie, representing the Chamber of Commerce today, and also this. What I've got that I'm going to hand out is an announcement that we are doing what we can to make this Riverfront Festival be a reality again. And we have got the ball rolling. We do have some funds that have come forward, and we have received approval from the Tourist Development Council to use the application for the grant that was awarded for $5,000 to be reduced to $2,000, since this isn't going to be a 3-day but a single-day event. We did a news flash earlier in the week from the past weekend from the Times stating that we were back on, this was going to happen. And this is a press release that we've just given out to David Atherton and as well as Michael Allen at Worcester Radio. And we are going to make it happen to be free to the public. It will be kind of a abbreviated distance on the streets. We are thinking we might be able to run this with vendors all the way down to Avenue C. We're thinking that we're going to be putting a stage at the end of Avenue B where it dead ends at Marin Street. We'll block the streets off on those ends. Signs, I've got them, they're ready to go up today to start advertising where in their normal locations. May not get to it till tomorrow, but we're working on that. It's behind the 8 ball trying to pull this one out of the hat. As you said the other day at the county commission meeting.
Rabbit out of the hat.
So we have a partial schedule. This schedule is out on our Facebook pages. We have a reference from the web page for Carrabelle Cares as well as their Facebook page that points to the Chamber of Commerce's web presence as well as their Facebook page that has these details. And like I said, we are working on this schedule right now. This is what we have. You know, we have, thanks to Sean O'Shea from Harry's, has already paid for like 4 bands to come, and 3 of them will play on the stage. We will have the Fishy Fashion Show that Joe Mady will put on. We'll be there at 2 o'clock. We've got a train that will run around that we've had before with the kiddies to ride. It looks like we're going to have the Sheriff's Department's bounce house, which will be on Degrassi vacant lot across from Christie's Cottage Living. Lisa Keith Lucas is the coordinator for the vendors, as she has been in the past, and she is working to try to do that. The vendors are getting free use of the space. If there's electricity to be used, we may have a nominal fee that we charge them for the electricity. That's, I'm thinking it's going to be something like maybe $20, but at any rate, we're not providing many tents for anybody like they've done in the past for requests. But we will have tents over the stage to keep them out of the sun. It'll be abbreviated size stage. But anybody got any questions about what we're trying to do?
I just have one.
Yes.
The band that's playing from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., is that going to be on the stage or will that be at Harry's? Remind everyone that there's no alcoholic beverages allowed on the city streets, so that if they're having a band out there and it's more like a street dance, they can't have alcohol.
Okay, I will relay that.
Okay, yeah, and, I
Ask
just,
them to move it inside.
Okay. Well, the stage is outside, and I guess if they're sitting on his property, I mean, inside the gates of his facility, they can do that.
it's going to be at the grill, or the Marine Street Grill, is that what you're talking about there? Is
Right,
that, oh, yeah.
yes, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's, but out on the street, no, there's not supposed to be open containers on the streets, you know, so. But we really appreciate it. I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and the other folks that are helping you. There's a line of folks that are behind you and.
We did, we called a meeting at the chamber office. It was gonna be a board of directors meeting, and then the word kind of spread, and the next thing you know, we have a community demanding to have access to hear what's gonna go on, and we had probably close to 25, 30 people crammed in the chamber office. And a show of hands, everybody was on board to try to do whatever they could with volunteering to make this happen. We got all the names and phone numbers, and we expect them to hold true to their word, so.
Okay, well, we wish you the best. I'm telling you, the announcement that the Times put out, Carrabelle hustles to reinstate the festival, had overwhelming response.
That's good to hear, that's good to hear. And like I say, it couldn't happen if we didn't have the outpouring from the community that came to that meeting and volunteered to step up and do what they could to make this happen. And we have several people that are taking over little pieces and parts of it to make this part go. So.
Okay, now let me ask Courtney a question. In the past, has the festival management or organizer paid the city for electricity use? So I don't think that you.
Shouldn't
Mr.
charge for
Lewis,
that.
Christie
Okay.
doesn't.
No,
need-
it's always been minimal, and we've just, that's been what we've given to the festival. We haven't ever charged them.
Well, the thing is that we've had to go out, the chamber included, have to go out and purchase all these electrical cords and the breakers and all these things to try to be able to accommodate that and the time it takes to go hook all these up and run them, supply individuals, and when
And
they have.
especially on that end, because there's no power.
Yeah.
All right, well, then that's up to you all, but to, you know, to
Just trying to
reimburse
recoup
yourself,
the
but
cost
the
of what
city
it took
has
us
not.
to provide that electricity in our own physical.
I understand,
Okay.
and then, but then, just for you to know that the city has not,
Received a dime.
no.
We've always
Okay.
provided water as well, so some of the vendors need water.
I know that Claire Speck's building where the old bank used to be, they've supplied water sometimes too, and paid for it, and Christie's Cottage Living has supplied water around there as well. Like I say, this is a community event, community effort.
Yeah, now,
Everybody
and,
gains from
there's
it happening.
a vacant lot, down across from the condos there that, has a water faucet coming up that we usually, if you need it, if you're going down that far, we turn on the meter there and then we, turn that off.
I don't
So
think,
if you need that,
no, we're going that far.
okay.
And I'm hoping, if we use down to Avenue C and count all the spaces for what the vendors was, it comes to approximately 60 spaces. And I know that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 vendors that are already committed and taking up 30-something spaces, so, and we keep getting calls all the time. So
I had
we
two
may,
yesterday.
of course, if it's free, what have they got to lose other than the gas to get here, you know?
Yeah, that's true,
Yes.
at the time.
You said your vendors are gonna be set up on the sea?
Down to C Avenue, not on C, but down Marine Street. It usually runs all the way down to where the Fishy Fashion Show at Wicked Willie's and the pavilion was. That's where the stage was set up for. So we're bringing that stage, we're not gonna put that huge thing up with all of the iron construction work that goes around it and hanging banners, all on that. We're just going to have a smaller version of the stage, probably half of the number of blocks, with maybe a runway and a ramp for the Fishy Fashion Show to parade up on. A couple of tents on top of that to provide shade for people that are on the stage. And that's it. Maybe something on the background to hang a few banners or decorations that Joe Nady might want to put up. So
Very good. Do you have folding chairs? I know I had mentioned that.
There's a lot of folding chairs at the city. I'm assuming that we're gonna be using those like they have in the past.
Do we have folding chairs?
There's a rack full of them in there where the decorations used to be.
Oh, I
and
think those
everything.
belong to Camp Gordon Johnston.
I was gonna say, I didn't think we had any.
Uh-huh.
Well, they've got to pay the city rent for storing them there, so.
They store a
Do I
lot
need to
of
talk to
things,
Camp
so-
Gordon Johnson, is what you're saying? I thought those were the cities, I'm sorry.
Hold- Just hold on just a minute now. No, with
I
the
think
seniors.
we have a few, but if there's a whole rack full, I don't think they're ours.
It's some kind of a structure that they were hanging on, it
David,
looks
that's
like.
David's, he built that and he hangs the chairs on there.
So I'll talk with David Butler.
Mhm.
Can do that.
Okay,
I just made a mistake, I'm sorry.
it's okay. He needs to find a place to put them. But that's all right, everything's good. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule.
Y'all ready to get started?
Okay,
Can I ask Louis a question?
So what have you done so far?
okay, well, hold on just a minute, we're right in the middle of an item. Okay, go ahead.
Could I see you later, Louis, and get a sort of a drawing of
Absolutely.
where, I mean, I could even help make it up.
Help with what?
Put just a visual thing of where the stage is and
Yeah.
where the road
You
ends.
want me to show you that right now? I've got
Have
them
you
right
got one
here.
of those?
Yeah,
Sort of
I
a
do.
schematic?
Give me just 1 sec. Okay, this is the, next year's Crowds Festival and Fishy Fashion Show thing. And this is where it usually is. Here's US 98. Here's Marine Street. It runs all the way. That's the
That's the
pavilion
pavilion.
down here, and that's Wicked Willie's. And see, this is Avenue C. So we're talking about only going, usually for the holiday on the harbor, Boat Cradle Lights, we're about right at here. And we do that. To
Okay,
give you some idea of what the holiday of the harbor was, and this was Riverfront, it's
yeah,
3 times.
you're gonna
4
stop,
times the
you're
number.
gonna stop right
We're
here.
gonna try to put a block right across
Is
there.
that what the stage gonna be?
And the stage is gonna be right there,
Fishy Fashion Show stage?
right there.
Okay,
All of it's
there.
gonna be right there.
Okay, down, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
wanted you-
we're- I'm working with,
At the end of
actually,
B.
truthfully, I'm working with,
Now, that road's been closed, and deeded over to, it's gonna be in the actual street.
yes, in the sidewalk. Kinda into the
In
sidewalk, just
front
for
of-
1 day.
In front of Mr. Benet's place?
No, it's not that far down.
Oh,
So,
okay.
right here where Avenue B comes in and dead ends right there, there's, Jerry's place, just right Marine. And I just gotta get him to move a boat he's got sitting on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And if I can get him to move that out of the way, then we'll put the stage right there next to the palm trees and stuff. There is a utility pole right there, and it has power, we use that power.
So if you,
So, I mean,
any staging kind of stuff, I mean, getting ready stuff could happen in Watkins. That empty space there.
Yeah, well, his empty lot is over here, and that's where we're
Oh,
gonna put the
okay.
bouncy houses and stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The
Okay,
intent
that's
for
good.
that there, over here is where the kiddies train will be, and the kiddies train will come out, run the area and come back into here, and that's behind Coastal Realty.
That's the old barber shop.
That's the old barber shop.
Right there, okay.
All right, okay, well, we'll move forward and let y'all take this up after the meeting. If you gotta move, you know, we've got engineer and attorney waiting on us. so-
Good. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, thank you.
You bet.
All right, so we are on new business, which we have none, and old business, we have
Mayor?
none.
Why are we in
So,
a hurry?
Mayor?
yes, yes, oh, did you
Another
have public
comment.
comment?
Yes, don't
Read
sorry.
it. I thought you were with Mr.
I
Lee.
am, but I have something
Okay.
separate.
Going back to public comment.
My name is Susanne Willcock. Dale, I live on River Road. I am my background is a land use planner and a consultant, and I've worked on visions. A few years ago, I wrote the vision for Nassau County with a consulting firm. And one of the things I met a gentleman with, and I'm helping Lewis, I volunteered my services to do the marketing. So the press release, the schedule, I'm gonna work on a poster today, come up with that. I'll work with people on t-shirts and do the marketing in the next few days, so I'm doing that. But one of the things that a gentleman mentioned to me the other day is the identity of Carrabelle, and talking about the different festivals, like Fernandina Beach has a shrimp festival, Apalachicola has the oysters, and Carrabelle is known, there's still the shrimp boats, and people come here for the riverfront. So just wanted to bring forward what we're trying to do and the things that we do, and in the description in the press release is just promote, come here and come to the festival, but also look at Carrabelle, view the shrimp boats, look at the riverfront, with the idea, and flesh it out with you later. This gentleman's suggestion, I thought it was great, and Lucy and I talked about it, is to promote for the future Carrabelle as a destination and promote. I mean, there are still shrimp boats there, and they're active. It's not as as abundant as it was, but the idea is that's what people come here for. They come for the fishing and the riverfront, and so as we do the marketing items, to just low key do that and say this is the destination, and you can come and look at what Carrabelle has to offer.
That's very good. I try to do that on my Facebook page as well, and we do that very heavily. That's what the Tourist Development Council is about. And we promote all of Franklin County and the Tourist Development Council, and then all the different communities.
Right.
So, as a destination.
Right, and that's the idea, and in the press release and that, we talked about the festival, but also come and enjoy the local shops, the local businesses,
The
and
other
the
things we
museums.
have to do, even kayaking or fishing off our piers once we get them repaired.
Right. I mean, the Worm Grunting Festival I went to last week, and I watched, and I walked around and we got like 7 vendors said, yes, I'd love to come. People were going in that old railroad museum and stuff like that, so I just wanted to let you know that's what
Thank
we're
you,
doing.
Ms. Suzanne, and thank you for your volunteer work.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate it.
Okay.
I do.
Thank you.
All
Anybody
right.
have any questions? Okay.
Okay, so we have no, is that the end of public comment? Greg, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. New business, none. Old business, none. So we'll move on to Russell Large, INOVIA Consulting Group project. Item 1, Northwest Avenue East Community Revitalization Project.
Okay, thank you. Just to give you an update on the current activities and schedule, the contractor is ready to place sod. They're trying to schedule that for maybe later this week, first part of next week. And they are ready for proof rolling, which as soon as I leave this meeting, I'll be going there to do the proof rolling. That's just to make sure the base is not yielding when a heavy truck rolls across it. So I'll walk up and down the road and make sure the base is in good shape. Then they'll be ready to pave. Tentatively, they're trying to get that scheduled for a week or next week or the week after. That's tentative time frame. It'll take them about 3, maybe 4 days to complete the paving work once they begin. So that'll happen pretty fast. Final completion date is still 15 May. That's about a month from now. I think with what they have to complete, I think they can meet that deadline. All right, take in item 2 there, follow-up of curb and gutter sidewalk construction caused by IGA delivery trucks. I wanted to take a minute and go over some exhibits with you, which I'll pass out, and I also have those on the big screen.
We can watch you walk up and down the streets here and see if you fall in.
Well, they'll have a machine over there. They've got a machine, right, or something?
A big truck,
Okay.
a loaded truck.
I didn't think you were gonna test it all yourself personally. You're large.
I wanted to take a minute and just provide the board with a little perspective on what we've done here with IGA. We've actually spent some time with them on site, with their staff here locally, and with the owners of the IGA out of Lakeland. They've driven up and spent some time with them. We had provided some exhibits to them some time ago to coordinate to make sure they're able to receive deliveries here. We had we have a program that simulates a large semi-truck backing, so we can see the wheel path and the limits of the truck. So we took a lot of care in doing that. So these are just several of the exhibits that we put together. I wanted to highlight a couple in particular. This exhibit, if you can follow, the truck would pull up 8th, pointing in this direction, and then back into the loading area here at the rear of the building, and that's where the roll-up door is. So we've simulated that movement, and there is no additional pavement or work necessary to make that movement. Show you one more. This is another one that we had produced earlier. Similar movement, just at a slight angle. We've gone over this with them several times, and they tell us that for a truck to back up in this way is very difficult for their particular drivers. That's what I'm being told. They refer to this as blindside backing. You can imagine if you're backing the trailer on the driver's side, you can look out the window and see the trailer as it moves. On the other side, as the trailer jackknifes, the driver can't necessarily see through the cab. So he's got to use his mirrors. And I've looked this up on the internet. Sometimes they have to get up out of their seat and look out the passenger window, or they have spotters that help them direct in that direction. So I'm being told that their drivers are not able to make this maneuver. So that put us in a position of going back to trying to figure out a way that they could make the maneuver so that they're not on the blind side. Last week we met with them again. This will be sheet number D on your paper copy. This is the idea. This is an idea that they came up with that would work for them. So the truck path would pull in on Avenue B and then down 8th, and then back in at an angle to the rear of the building. Does everyone follow me? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is an idea that they came up with that keeps the truck level, and we had the green that you see there would be to replace that curb with a drop curb so they can roll over, and then stabilize the area with millings or lime rock in some way, not pavement or concrete. They seem to be satisfied with that. This was their idea. So I just want to give you some perspective on where we were with them. So we came up with 3 options here to deal with the situation. I mean, obviously, IGA is a very important facility for the community, so we want to try to accommodate them as best we can. So these are the options that we've come up with. The first would be to ask IGA to pay 100% for the improvement shown, this exhibit. Why? Because we were able to demonstrate that there is a way for them to use their rear loading area without additional improvements. Okay. The second option would be to make a request to Department of Economic Opportunity to include this cost in the grant amount. They may or may not approve this. I don't know what they would say. And they would likely not approve work outside of the right-of-way. So there's a portion of this work here to connect to the ramp that is outside the right-of-way. That would be perfectly reasonable to ask IGA to pay for that portion. Okay, that's the second option. Well, let me back up on that. With the second option, We're estimating this is gonna cost in the $5,000 range. Even if it was as much as $10,000, currently we have about $30,000 remaining in the CDBG budget. So there is budget dollars there. The city, however, would have to contribute 25% of that additional grant amount. So that would be somewhere in the $1,250 range, maybe $2,500 range, that the city would be responsible for. Okay, that's the second option. The third option, and you know, I've talked to them multiple times, and what I haven't heard from them is that they've attempted to make the maneuver or provided some evidence that they can't do this maneuver, that their drivers can't do this maneuver. I'm not convinced that they've discussed this with their drivers. The third option here would be to ask IGA to contact their delivery drivers and at least ask them to attempt to deliver it in the way that we've shown without the additional improvements. I feel like I've pushed them pretty hard on this, but also recognizing they're an important facility here in the community. Those were the options that we came up with for discussion.
I know last Friday morning I walked by Millender and there was a Coca-Cola truck and front cab was over the gutter curbing on the opposite side of the IGA street. The entire street was blocked. You couldn't get through there. In fact, you could hardly walk through there without blocking that.
And they were over the curb?
They were over the
On the
curb.
north side.
On the north side. And I can't say for sure whether there were IGA employees or people out there, but there was at least, there was the Coke truck, there was the Coke van, so he had a spotter of some sort, so I don't know whether anybody's spoken to him or not, but there were a number of people there. I didn't see any damage, I have to say that, but then again, I didn't look too closely at that.
On the north side.
Either side.
The south side is covered. Yeah.
I didn't, and it was probably because the Coke was in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a dumpster there. And I guess the other question I have is, why are we figuring this out? Why did we discover we have this problem now? Why wasn't this kind of taken into the...
Right. Well, and we did. I mean, we coordinated with them early, and we showed them the truck path.
When you say early,
Let's see, as soon,
I mean, are we talking like...
Months ago.
months ago, yes.
And Courtney and Keisha and Russell, we've had a big powwow out there with the manager, a couple of managers, and been out there time and time again. And it does seem like they don't want to ask the drivers to even attempt the maneuver. And they've just almost destroyed the curb and gutter out there. And it's not gonna last a year even. I don't know who's gonna be responsible for those repairs.
And I reviewed that with the contractor. There is an epoxy product that's DOT approved for things such as crack repair of curbs. And they've actually done one spot, not at this location, at a different location. And it looks good. I think for some of the small cracks, I think that's going to work fine. We may need to saw cut a few areas out where the concrete is spalled and re-pour those. And I think IGA is responsible for this. I mean, their truck rolled over the handicap ramp.
They used have you been over there, either of you all? See, they used the handicap ramp on the sidewalk as a ramp to get up on to their apron. And it's just not gonna last very long at that rate. So, yes, Greg?
Have they addressed the portable lift gate that they have out there that's constantly in the sidewalk? Have they looked at?
Yeah, and that's part of the solution here. That portable ramp needs to be moved back towards the roll-up
The
door.
dumpsters too, because the dumpsters.
And the dumpsters, absolutely.
Yes. I see, in my observation of just going by, and not particularly just to look at the project, but going by, I see, as an example, one of those that's detrimental to the sidewalks and to the curb and gutter is that large steel dumpster that's being drug around
Yes.
by the service truck and dumped off by the service truck is doing some of the damage. Somewhere, not to be critical or rude, but somewhere someone has to take responsibility for those. And Russell, in my opinion, you keep saying that the IGA is important. It is. It's equally important as any other business, if not greater. That's our primary food distributor in the city. But somewhere, someone has to take responsibility. And I don't know if it's the IGA or if it's the vendors that service the IGA. Because the vendors that service the IGA is the one with those large semis that's backing up over the sidewalks and the curb and gutter.
Right.
And just a comment.
Well, it's difficult when you take the time to do the research and you find that there are drivers out there that make that maneuver every day, and they can put it on a dime. I'm not sure what makes these drivers different, and maybe they are. I don't know the answer to that. That's really on them, I think, to work out. But if they feel that this is an absolute must, that they have to have it this way.
Well, in response to Mr. Powis again, we were out there pretty much immediately. I mean, I've been busy recently, but when the project first started, I was out there every day. And as soon as they got the curb and gutter, I mean, it was like the next delivery, they're all over the sidewalk, and Courtney and Russell knew it immediately. So, and they just really don't make any attempt. In fact, they were furious that they could not still use the right-of-way on the north side and the property. They were actually driving onto the property, the real property on the north side.
Right, that's what I saw.
Not just the right-of-way, but
They were on the property.
yes, sir,
Over the gutter and curving around the property.
on the north side.
On the north side.
So I don't know if our streets are more narrow than other streets, or, just,
Well, obviously the curb and gutter wasn't there, so
Yeah.
they just rolled wherever they.
Well, I don't know how we would, I think that we would start with your option, the last one that you said, to have them ask their drivers to come out and make the attempt the maneuvers. Do that first, but I don't know how you or any one of us, or Mr. Hartman even, demand or say, and then how do we have proof that they have had their drivers attempt the maneuver? But I think the DEO would want that before we go to the DEO.
That's what I suspect too.
I would imagine that we have to be out there.
Out there, when they get those deliveries. When is that, on Tuesdays?
Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 a.m.
But we see them.
Coca-Cola was there Friday morning.
Okay.
And you
Right,
know,
I think
since you-
that's a different.
I've got photos, in the
I
daytime.
mean,
That's
they
true,
have
yeah.
different deliveries throughout the day, like you said, the Coca-Cola and the beer truck, those common. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays are their big
Their main big ones.
grocery trucks.
And they need to get the dumpsters off. I mean, you see right there, the dumpsters are up against the building. I'm not understanding.
Outside the right of way.
Why? And the dump truck is not a long semi. I don't understand why the dump truck can't bring them on in onto that private property.
Yeah, it's a single unit truck, and that's what I was referring to, because I saw damage that they have caused in other locations with offloading and unloading that big steel box. And it's inherent that there's damage being done. And like I said, I've noticed it in other locations where that's happening. But when I rode by the other day, one of those dumpsters had been offloaded right on the sidewalk. And I know when it drove on that sidewalk that it was not pleasant.
Well, that's where they keep them now, it's on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and they drop product, you know, broken ketchup bottle or
Mr. Hartman, do you have a suggestion?
If they tear up our improvements, then we can obviously demand that they pay to repair them. The idea that if they just tell us they're unwilling to have their drivers attempt that maneuver, if they could, I mean, it's still not a perfect legal reason, but if they say because of insurance, because of something, I mean, but it's literally, I can't believe, I'm not super familiar with it, but they go to school, all those drivers. I mean, they have to make those type of turns to get their license.
If they have that Class A license, which is basically what they're supposed to have, they had to make those maneuvers.
They had to make those, yeah, work with the mirrors and all that. But hey, it may be that literally Winn-Dixie has a technical reason. I want to know what that is. So that then we have that to go to DEO with, to say, hey, this is our problem, this is why. So because DEO is going to look at us and say, why are we doing this? And we need more documentation. So in a way, pitching it to them to say, you know, we'd like to revisit and have your drivers, you explain to us again why your drivers can't make that maneuver. We need backup for that. We can't just be their preference that it makes them uncomfortable. That's.
Well, if they have
And let me ask you this, I know this is my lack of knowledge, but is it because they're blocking an intersection, they can't back it from the other direction? Why wouldn't they just come this way and back in on the driver's side?
That's what they're doing.
But is that just, you know, I mean,
why
why wouldn't they come in on Avenue B heading west and just back it in on the driver's side? So that,
Yeah, I was
That's
thinking the
what I'm
same
wondering.
thing.
Is it because of the round curve there?
Yes, it is. The curve there.
The curve
let's see.
right there on 8th Street.
Here's a blow up of that maneuver. And you know what? This is an option that we had discussed as well. The green that's there on the north side, that would become a drop curve, and it would stabilize that side that you see in the shading there, and they could back in that way. That's also an option.
But you'd have to take out the curve
We'd
on the
have
north
to
side.
take out the curve at the intersection.
And drive on the right of way, basically.
Use the right of way.
Use the right of way.
Across the sidewalk.
And what would that be on the right of way for? Is that millings or,
Millings would be good. Just stabilize with lime rock. I think that would be good. I think a lime rock stabilization would look better.
now down on the 8th Street side of IGA, there's a retention pond of sorts, and I guess it's fire suppression system or something there that's outside. So you're.
Yes, that's their backflow preventer.
Okay, so, but you're not in the way of that. are
Right
you?
now, they would have to remove or relocate their grease receptacle, and he said he would do that.
And the backflow preventer.
Right.
That's in the way?
We recommend that they would put some bollards around it,
Okay.
but that would be their responsibility as their backflow preventer. And they indicated a willingness to participate financially in this option.
Probably a very naive question. Why did they have to back it at all? Why?
That's a great question. I asked that too. And he said if they had a forklift, they could do it from the street.
They back into that portable lift gate and then drop the stuff down.
And they use a hand jack, pallet jack.
DEO to buy a forklift.
For the
But
money
cheaper.
they're willing to spend on this, couldn't they buy them a forklift?
yes, he also went on to explain that he did not have confidence in his staff to operate a forklift without damaging something.
Well, that's almost a catch-22 situation. Because it seems like, and I'm not being, again, rude, but the truck drivers, like I said, I'm thinking somewhere, someone has to take some responsibility. The truck drivers obviously can't be relied upon to professionally back that truck as it needs to be. And I'm with the attorney. When he or she received that license, they had to pass a backing test to receive that CDL license. And somewhere there's got to be a responsibility there of both. That's just like the options you're offering. I'm willing, as me personally, willing to meet and try to help resolve the issue, but to me it has to be a two-way thing, not just one. And again, the other example is where that huge steel container's been dropped off on the sidewalk. That's part of the damage, I'm sure, to the sidewalk. It's not just the backing issue.
Right.
So somewhere, whether it's a backing, whether it's a large dumpster being dropped off, or whether it's a forklift operation, someone has to take some guidance and accept and become responsible.
And I'm wondering too, Russell, why they can't come up 8th Street and turn in the driveway there going into the car wash. And back in, right there.
Okay.
The
And
driveway,
we
the
have
apron that's
talked about
proposed.
that on site with them.
That would probably
They don't,
That's the option. I'm sorry.
they don't want to use those driveways, those aprons there.
It's private property.
No,
that's-
No.
No, that's not.
It's, that's all right away.
well, it is until you get to the edge of the right of way, but with that long truck, he would probably have to go, he or she would have to go far enough in that driveway to get his approach or alignment right. He'd be on private property.
Well, they've been
No,
going on
that's-
private property
They've
for
been
years.
doing it anyway.
Is there an alleyway up there?
They've been going up
That is an
almost to
alleyway.
to the washer, building for years. And they have, these people have put out, barricades and little fences and all kinds of things to try to stop it, and they just drive right over it.
But,
So,
I mean, that one seems like the easiest maneuver.
well, by the way, this is also blindside backing. If they can do this, I'd like to think they can do
They
that.
can do the other, yeah.
Well, it gets you a little further north with your tractor.
Yeah.
but I agree, some of the damage certainly is being done with the dumpster that's being dropped there, and would the responsibility then not lie on the IGA, but the garbage disposal company?
I think all of it lies with IGA, and then they would be the one that would go to the garbage disposal. That's their.
Well, that's what I was saying to Keisha over here is some of that damage is being done by IGA contractors or vendors. Is a better word,
All of
vendors,
it, all of it.
and not IGA, but the IGA has to take some responsibility there to make sure that their vendors are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
But the curb is cracked up in various places all along there, not just where they're dropping that dumpster, but all along, all the way to the corner here where they access on there. And I mean, the sidewalk's gonna be going shortly because it's not constructed to hold those,
Well,
apron windows.
It is.
All the way
The
out
the sidewalk
to
part
the end,
is,
to the end of the street there.
Can we put bollards right there at the end of the sidewalk?
That's what I was talking about earlier, a couple of months ago, I suggested
With the
that.
big
to
bollards so
Courtney.
that a wheelchair could get there, but you can't drive a truck up on it.
Yes, you could, Keisha.
I thought about I wrote that to Courtney a couple of months ago to put
But
those
force
things,
them to not be able to get up there, then
Like
they're
we-
gonna have to do it.
like we
That's
have.
their issues could be money, and as we get down this agenda,
Yeah.
we're gonna find out we don't have it.
But,
Well, that's trying to figure out the cheapest path.
yeah, but I took pictures of the 12th Street Fishing Pier, sent them to Courtney, I said, let's put these out there, these bullards or ballards, all over, across the street, wherever.
Just put up a fence.
Yeah.
Or even one in the center of the sidewalk would probably be sufficient, that they couldn't ramp it with their tire. you know,
Yeah.
just one there.
The concrete there, by the way, is 6 inches thick for the limits of the apron.
Okay, uh-huh.
So, and that's intended for a truck traffic.
And the apron and, apron footprint is the exact same thing that was there before?
Actually, it's larger.
Okay, and they just took up all their
You-
cracked apron and.
You can see where it was, and we expanded it.
Okay,
Larger.
they gave them a brand new, beautiful apron. So, or we did, DEO.
It seems that until IGA has some financial liability, they're not going to have the incentive to do anything. So I don't know what, if we continue discussing this, that would be my response. It's the IGA's problem. And if Dan says we can have them repair damage they do, at least ask them to repair the damage they do.
Well, how do you want to proceed then? Do we want to ask them to show proof they can or cannot make the maneuvers, and then go to the DEO, or go ahead and send a letter to them and advise them that they're damaging infrastructure, and that they need to be financially responsible for it?
Yes, the last.
You want to do that first? Do what I said last first?
Right. If you've been talking with them for months.
Yes, we have, and Russell's communicated with them via email, he sent
You've
them all
already
these
done all the other
pictures,
stuff.
yes. Mr. Hartman?
I mean, I agree, I think the combination approach, I mean, Russell's had a lot of interaction with them, they've come up here a couple times, but he calls them and says, hey, we had a meeting. I explained to them that your drivers prefer not to make that maneuver, or you don't want to make your driver make it. That's not good enough. We need a reason why, rather than just preference. And they also, you can certainly pass along, they also got upset about the damage, continued damage that's being caused to city infrastructure here. That has to be addressed. And the best way to address it is to address it as part of the solution to this back-end in problem.
And the IGA prefers not to get a forklift truck. That could solve it too.
I think that's probably, the thing is, they're gonna back in there. They're gonna back in there. One way to go. They're gonna back in there. And we just
Have
need
that
to-
ramp.
We need to have them, I mean, I would say to tell them, we cannot go to DEO and ask for increasing grant money to make any improvements out there with you guys doing two things, tearing it up and not giving us any good reason why your drivers can't back in there.
A technical reason.
Technical reason, we have to have a better reason. And if you don't give us one, then we can't go to DEO and get grant money, and the city's certainly not gonna pay for it, so you have to pay for it and run them through these solutions, as you've already done. And give them numbers and everything else, and they've gotta repair and come up with a improvement solution, but it's all on them. I would think the city, why would the city come out of pocket because their drivers don't feel comfortable making a maneuver that they need to make to get their license? And talking about someone with dents in his truck and jackknifing trailer, so I'm sensitive to it, but these guys are professionals, so it's just their job, that's their job.
Well, we could start that way then, and it may come down to some compromise, but we can certainly, start that way.
And with the trucks backing in, that's the reason why I mentioned it's not just the trucks backing in. It's the other service vehicles as well, like the trash trucks. Those are not, those are single unit vehicles, where a semi is not a single unit vehicle where they're backing into that loading and offloading ramp. Those are single unit vehicles that are, I don't want to use the word ignoring, but they're neglecting to be professional and kind of do things the way that they should be done, and to reduce any damage or destruction of city infrastructure. And that's primary communications, in my opinion, that should go to IGA as well, because whoever's doing it, that is destruction of public property, so.
And yes, and be sure to mention this garbage dumpster, and I've reminded, twice now since I've been on board, I have witnessed contractors, they're going to a vacant lot to clear the lot off for some reason, and they drive over our sidewalk, the city sidewalk, crack it up, and I come in and tell Courtney, and we send a letter, and they have to repair the section of the side, and actually that happened out here in this one as well.
It did.
And they had to repair the sidewalk. So if they're going to, allow their vendors or their own staff, whatever, to tear up the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, then they need to be responsible for repairing it.
Okay.
Hate to be
All right.
so rude to our food provider, but
Well, we need to get this resolved. That's true, that's true.
you never know.
We do need to get this resolved.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just being
So-
professional, not being rude, it's just being professional.
So if it pleases the board, I'd like to coordinate some language with Mr. Hartman and form a letter and send that.
That's fine with me. Is it okay? Do we want to direct Russell to do that? By motion?
I'll make that motion to direct Russell to consult with the attorney, Mr. Hartman, and formulate a letter to represent what our discussion has been here in the last few minutes and our concerns about the destruction at the site behind the IGA on Avenue B between 7th and 8th Street.
All right, that's a motion by Commissioner Millender. I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
I got the time of it, and I'm gonna go back and look at the video and write it. Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, second by Mr. Powis. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then, and that motion carries. All right, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time, sir. And then we'll move on to CRA board projects, and the number one is to review our CRA budget year to date. And I think, yes, Courtney gave everybody a copy of Miranda's year to date, and on the left-hand column are the expenses year to date as of April the 9th.
Did they already talk about this?
On the
beer and
right-hand
wine
column
thing
is the budget,
with
but
Lewis
this
here
is the budget for
Did you
last
want
year.
anything?
She has not updated the budget on this right-hand column. Yeah, so, but that's okay. That's okay, she knows it, and we all know it. On this expense to budget here, I hope y'all can see it. Is it big enough for everybody to see it?
No,
Okay. All right. On the budget there under 2018-19, that is our actual budget there, that's what we budgeted. So, but using, on the top, the budget, that is what we budgeted for income up there at the top, and then the bottom on that left-hand column is what our budget was. And then our actual operating income, we were able to put that together yesterday, and the 84,291 is from the grant reimbursement, as Courtney reported. The 83,610 is the actual amount that the county's tax increment portion. The 120,54 is the city's actual amount that was paid on January 29th, 22. And then you can see the county's was paid on December the 18th. We have not yet transferred the 100 from the general fund, but it can be done anytime in this fiscal year. The balance forward that we had on, that was 9/30/18. That was the balance forward. We had 236,44. And then our actual expenses are here from Miranda's year-to-date expense report. projected expenses are in the next column. If we continue on the path that we're on, that would be our projected expenses. So, we have, you can see then, we've got deficits. And if we continue with our budget as is, we will have a $34,223 deficit. And I do want to call your attention to that line item 540, publications and membership. That $795 should be a deficit of, I think it should say $495, a deficit. So, but on this next page that's a little bit smaller here, where it says suggested budget reallocation, you still have your budget in the left-hand column, and then in the right-hand column, the reallocation would be, as you see there, do not spend any more money on maintenance and repairs, no more money on the sprinklers. Keep the landscape and maintenance at the $40,000 that we budgeted, because their actual contract is for $37,000 or $38,000. We must have done something, hired him to do something early in the year that's made it project out to be over budget, but it really shouldn't be over budget. It needs to stay at 40. The accounting and audit, that's the cost, and that's no changing. We're not going to do any training or travel. Our utilities, the projected, at the rate we're going, the projected expenses on the utilities are $19,898, so we need to keep that at $20,000. Liability that's the cost. Then maintenance and repair, do not spend any more money. That's what we've spent on it already, so that's it. The next three items, don't spend money there. We have spent $795 on the, that was on the Florida Redevelopment Association. We are required to be a member of that. That's correct, I believe. Consulting fees and for legal and engineering, if you look back at our projected expenses or our year-to-date expenses, we're nowhere near the $5,000 that we budgeted, so budget 2 for each. Media and website, we've spent yeah, we probably need to leave that at
167.
We probably need to leave that. We don't know if we may have to post a report or something on there. The $550,070, that is the actual budget last we had from INOVIA for the, I've got it right here, for that Northwest Avenue B project. Let's see what day that was. That was November the 19th. So, we haven't done any street signs or lot cleanup, so put that as 0, leave it 0. Riverwalk Park rehab, we had to pay $5,125 as consulting fees when we closed out the grant, for her to close out the grant for us. I just signed the final check on the Holiday on the Harbor fireworks. Commissioner Millender and I did yesterday, so we've actually spent that $2,500 there. That would reduce the deficit down to $22,342. So then Ms. Courtney has a recommendation for us. Or we talked about it yesterday, how we might manage this.
But the general fund still owes the CRA money? $400,000 roughly. that is still owed from the general fund. And we had already budgeted to put 100,000 from the general fund to the CRA. And my suggestion is that we make that 125,000 to balance the CRA budget.
But,
And it would help pay down the debt that the general fund owes to CRA, and it's got to be paid anyway.
I was actually thinking the same thing. What, why is this drop at 25, why not go to 150 total?
I have to look at my general.
yeah.
Oh, slow down.
Oh, see, he doesn't sit on the commission.
Yeah.
Well, why not just do 400?
Well, I knew that we
Okay.
couldn't do that.
That was gonna be next.
I just thought we'd just go for $500,000 and be done with it.
Oh, okay, it would be nice, but we only owe about 417.
Yep, just give them some, you know.
But, we'll see, I've got, we would have to, we would probably need to get with, what we need is year-to-date for the general fund.
And we're working on that now.
Yeah.
And we did look at what we have in the bank account, so we know that, we have the 125. I mean, we have more than that, that's not all we have, but we did look and see what was in the bank account, and we can't afford to do the 120.
I was just coming at it from the angle of, we're only in April, right? And this has got to go until September, this budget? And we might need another,
We always need more.
For item 2.
for item 2.
But, and one thing about it, there's a lot of moving parts, and when you got ongoing projects that are running over $500,000, and you run into water line conflicts and sewer pits and light fixtures that don't work, it's hard to get it right on the penny, on the nail, so.
Courtney, Keisha, are any of the monies, any of the expenditures reimbursable from FEMA due to?
Not for the light fixtures. Now, they are gonna pay for some wiring repairs where it went underwater, but only the stuff that was underwater. Everything up is not gonna be paid for by FEMA.
Good, I understand, but what kind of money we're talking about that we may get some reimbursement on some of this?
Most everything's covered under general fund.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we spent, no, just the Suncoast bills that we had where they come out, and it was very minimal though. What,
A few dollars.
a few dollars.
Well, and
Well, the threshold for FEMA is you gotta spend at least $3,200 or it's not eligible.
Right.
So if we spent more than $3,200 on Suncoast to come out and tell us that there was some shorts in the wiring and what he fixed, then that would be eligible for reimbursement. But that's the only part that's reimbursable. Nothing where we've changed the ballast and the lights, and he keeps coming out for everything above ground, none of that's reimbursed.
basically nothing that's in this budget to be spent. The stuff that we're getting reimbursed, general funds covering and getting reimbursed.
Yeah, we paid for all that out of general fund.
And this budget and the CRA is covered under a Florida statute, and really, you know, all of the money is supposed to be spent by the end of the fiscal year, September the 30th, and they say ideally for 3 months you're not doing projects until you get your tax increment payments from the city and the county. But you know, we've had money that we put in that we're trying to yes, we're trying to transfer money and move money from the general fund that's owed by law to the special revenue fund, and we're doing the best we can to do that and to try to operate the budget as directed by Florida statute. So it's a little difficult, but we're doing the best we can. So we were taking no action. Courtney and I talked about, let's review it first so that everybody knows what's going on with the money. And then we'll talk about the items here that may need to be done and that may need to be, I'm not going to say right now because we'll wait till we get to each item. But item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding replacing mulch in all flower beds and landscape areas. Now, I asked for this to be on here before I realized, that we had such a major deficit. I have asked Miranda to give me a year-to-date on the streets and roads budget. I don't have that yet to see if maybe they had the money to buy the mulch. The landscape maintenance manual includes that they will put the mulch down. The contractors will put the mulch, but the city purchases, or the CRA purchases the mulch. It would be nice to have it for the Riverfront Festival. That would be ideally, or even if we could have some mulch around there where the festival's going to be in that area. It would be nice to have it for summer. The TDC is really advertising. They received a $174,000 from Visit Florida, and they have beefed up their media, social media, TV, radio, and video, print. All of that's been beefed up with that $174,000 on top of the $600,000 that they use already for advertising. For instance, all residents in the villages will receive a 6x9 postcard from Franklin County next week, inviting them all to come up here and relax. We've had studies done, and the #1 area in Florida are the villages. They like to come to Franklin County to vacation, to relax, to get out of the hustle and bustle. So next week, every mailing residents will be receiving a 6x9 postcard from the Tourist Development Council. We're going to have some traffic this summer. It would be nice for Carrabelle to look as good as it can. So, but we don't have money for mulch. Do we try to find some? It would be nice. We can do that.
I've bought mulch myself several times. You could ask other people to buy mulch in front of their buildings.
We could.
When it wasn't mulched, I mulched. And Vicky and Cody, they mulched theirs. There are places where there are no businesses that we could do it. Help us out. Help yourself out. We're good.
But it would be nice to have Welcome Park, as you come into the city from that way. There's no real park on the west side until, no area until you get to the bridge.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me. I understand.
Yeah. The streets and roads fellows are trimming the palm trees. They've still got a couple of areas they need to hit, but they're doing a good job on trimming the palm trees back.
Notice.
So any suggestions on what we might do here? Is anyone interested in maybe staff seeing if the city can purchase the mulch?
I think it's a good idea.
Well, if we did the full 25, that leaves us about 2,500 in the CRA.
I don't know if we should do that.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I mean, we should, I want to say when we did the whole city in the past, it was about $2,000.
Buy a truckload.
Now, we got some flack over that.
Why is that?
Because it's cypress mulch.
Oh,
I kind of told you something.
oh, that's right, I forgot.
So it was,
It's not ecologically friendly, is that the
Yeah.
problem?
I
It was a
guess,
cypress tree.
baby cypress trees.
Oh,
Maybe we should go to 135.
But it's the red mulch, and it's what looks the best. And, and we bought it by the bag before. We got this, Jackson's worked with us to give it to us just above cost. It just costs a little bit more if you do it that way, because we're doing it by bag, and you can imagine how many bags it takes.
How long does it stay red?
It stays good for about, almost a whole year, if not two. It holds up better than the pine straw.
Yeah.
But it's been so long since we've done it, there's hardly,
And
it's
if we
gone.
can keep them rotating it, you know,
Yeah.
then it'll stay better because the kind of sun bleaches it out in the rain.
Right.
And then if you you churn it up, it turns back to the good color.
But now it's ground. You
Now
know,
it's
just
washed
nothing
away.
there but sand.
Some places still.
I think we could find it probably in the general fund.
Alrighty. Well, do we need a motion, recommendation to the staff or to the commission?
I think it would be under the threshold or something.
Yeah. Under 25,000.
Yeah.
So we'll look in the general fund and see, maybe,
And I agree, I'm a big fan of the mulch.
well, it doesn't make it look cleaned up. It would be nice to really, if people are even traveling through here going to St. George or Appalach, if she's looking good, maybe they'll say, well, let's come back here next time. And that tourism is our #1 industry.
During the culture crawl, a lot of people came into the stores that had no idea what was going on. And they just stopped out of curiosity and realized there's a town here. And packed streets with businesses.
Like human beings live here.
And human beings, yeah.
It's not just a speedboat.
And so many people drive directly to St. George, there's nothing to get them to stop, so.
Maybe some mulch will make them stop.
You gotta put it up in Austin. Put it out in the middle of the road, and
Yeah.
it'll stop.
I just don't want to be there on the trucks.
All right, then, is there any other comments on this item? Are there any other comments? All right, item 3, discussion and possible action regarding remaining needed repairs to the irrigation system in the CRA district. And I'm surprised Mr. Myrick isn't here. Did he speak with you or anything?
Yes, well, he asked me to put it on the agenda and see if you guys wanted to go forward with any repair, with the other repairs, the second phase. He's already finished the first phase. But looking at the budget, there's not money for
Oh,
that.
did you advise him of that? I'm
No,
surprised.
that was before, we looked at it yesterday.
Now, when he came to us, the reason these repairs are being done, #1, is because the water bills are high. So we are getting some irrigation. We
Yes.
have irrigation. And the remaining cost for the 4 zones, there's still 4 zones to be repaired, is $12,500. And my suggestion would be to wait until next year's budget and keep this on your list for a budget item. That would be my suggestion. Does anyone else have a suggestion?
I agree with that statement. I'm very conservative. I think when you don't have the money, you don't spend it.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of things that are nice, a lot of things we need, but there's also a line drawn when you don't have the money, you don't have.
Well, most of those plants, they were designed drought tolerant plants, so they're stable now. It's not like they were in the beginning, they're pretty stable. And even if you see the rose bushes, they look beautiful.
I think it was to repair them because they were running too long or sticking or spraying them wrong too much.
They were leaking and the water
So
bills were
those
high.
zones should be,
They need to be
Shut off.
repaired eventually.
yeah, until they're repaired.
Do you know what the other 4 zones?
No, I don't. We asked him to do the 2 priority landscape zones, wherever that is.
If I remember correctly, I was the one who made a motion to approve it on the $6,000 some odd dollars we already spent.
Uh-huh.
And, exactly, $6,250.
Mhm.
And at that time, we had some money. We weren't flourished, but we had a little bit of money. And I was in favor of taking the highest priority and trying to get that done and go from there. But it sounds like right now, we don't have any money to play with. So,
No.
I'm resistant to playing with any
Well,
money.
no, I wouldn't suggest to do that if, no. So, but keep it in mind for your budget.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then here we go with item 4 then, discussion of possible action regarding quotes for repairs of Marine Street light fixtures, which Courtney did get a quote from Suncoast, right?
From Suncoast Electric. Susanne electrician that we've been using down there, which I know we would put it out to bids, but I just wanted to have an idea of what it would cost. And these were to replace the lamps on all of the poles. And I didn't bring that with me, but it was right at, I think,
Here I have it.
76,000.
76,137.
76,137.
I'll pass it down and then you pass it back this way and let everybody look so you can see. That's for regular lights now, not LED.
No, I think it is LED.
Okay, well, that would be what I would want to know, is that for LED?
Yeah, I think it was for LED, but I'll go back and pull that up.
Okay, and then, is that going to stop the lights from going out, the ballast and all of these things that we have to repair and spend $3,000 a month or $1,500 repairing lights?
Do the LED have ballast?
I
think
don't
it-
know, ballast and lamps,
Yeah.
and then another ballast and lamps. We spent $1,314 in November and $2,300 in January.
And I'll forward that out to everybody,
Okay.
so y'all can review it. If we don't have them, of course, we can't do it now.
Mm-hmm.
But if y'all wanna look at that for a project, which we would put out to bid at that price, we would put that out to bid so we get other estimates too.
And
Or
did
maybe include a price for solar, to put solar, if they're taking the whole part off anyway.
yeah, I mean, did he send a picture of the fixture or what he suggests or, okay.
I'll send that out.
All right, and then this is an item that I would suggest that we discuss in our budget workshop. Unless you want to transfer $500,000. We want it to look good, but we don't want it to look that good.
Well, like I said,
It's so good at night.
if you have the money, it's fine.
I know,
If
but-
you don't, then you don't.
Yeah.
We
All
bring
right.
our Christmas lights back up.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Miss,
It said, what I read on their conversion kits, that includes conversion
To the
kits.
LED.
So I'm sure that's LED. It
Okay.
doesn't specify LED, it says
No,
conversion
I have
kits.
another email before
So I'm
that
sure
where
that's
where we
LEDs.
picked he was sending me back and forth the different
But-
lamps, and I'm pretty sure it had LED.
But I did hear the mayor's question about, is that going to solve the issue with the wiring? I don't, that sounds like just to do the lights on the
That
poles.
is just the
That has
lamp.
nothing to do with the underground
Yeah,
wiring
that's
that we have
just the
issues
lamps.
with.
And it would solve the ballast problem because you don't have a ballast in the LED
As long as we
light.
have electricity to it.
But, not the electrical. But most of his work he's come out and done hasn't been on the electrical, just right after the storm. Most of it's been on the lamps.
I think most of the electrical we had was just with those 2 or 3 lamps down there around the wash rack, and right on the end of Marine Street down there. And that's where we had
And there's a
primarily
short,
the electrical issue, yeah.
there's a short underground.
Correct, yeah. And I think some of that started after we had that bulkhead fixed, and there's been question about that, but we don't know the direct answer to
Right.
that. So.
Right, you're correct.
Okay. All right, then, so we'll move on to item 5. We're back with the budget, discussion and possible action regarding CRA budget allocation. So now we would take action since we've reviewed some of these items that we had on our, in the past. We did direct at the last meeting for Courtney to get a price on the lamps, and we we're going to, Mr. Meyer wanted us to address his irrigation system, so we needed to have those items on the agenda, but we needed to know if we could spend money before we discuss those. So now, we do know we need to have some kind of a budget reallocation here. So there are some suggestions made there for as far as cutting your spending, and then possible adding to the amount to be transferred from the general fund.
So do we need a motion to?
Well, we'll need a motion to reallocate.
To use these changes.
I'll make that motion that we make these changes as on here plus increase the 100,000 from the general fund up to
125.
125.
You wanted to throw in a little bit more.
Okay. All right, so that motion is by Mr. Powis to take the suggested reallocation budget suggestions there as listed, and then to increase the 100,000 from the general fund to 125,000 by Rob Powis. And is there a second?
I'll say,
Okay.
well, that will eliminate this 22.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Fair. But we may not spend all this money. Unless Russell, what's he coming up with over there? On the Northwest Avenue B? Okay,
You can spend
You still got work to do.
so, is there any discussion on that? On that motion? I don't have anything to say about it, if I don't. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries, and I do remember what I had to say.
Please.
Can we, if it's found out that the general fund can afford it, can we reallocate again in this fiscal year to the CRA?
You mean the add more to
To
the
the-
25?
yeah. Okay, all right, so,
I don't know any reason why we can't, but that may be a
I don't know, I just want to
policy
make
issue.
sure, you
Yeah.
know, for public record. All right, so other items brought forward by CRA board members.
We left this spot open for you guys.
I think I'm gonna pass on that today,
Okay,
because the city council's addressing
the one issue,
part of that.
right.
I'm still concerned about some of the city regulations, ordinance, but I don't want. Thank you for mentioning. And I hope the city does take care of that. I mean, the city council addressing the FEMA.
Oh,
change.
FEMA. Oh, yes,
Well,
I've
the
heard.
Florida flood insurance, I mean, the national flood insurance.
Actually, I have it on my report to tell you all about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And Bo had wanted to talk about it, but now since we kind of took some action, but he does have another issue, but we'll bring that up later.
Don't let my list scare you, or what?
No,
Okay.
I think it's just now's not the time to,
Okay.
the right way to do that. It has to do with alcohol.
Alcohol?
Oh.
So we'll address that. Alcohol.
The ordinance. I've been getting a lot of calls, so.
It's a business, a downtown business. Otherwise, I pass. I defer to your.
All right, does anyone, any other board members have something they'd like to talk about, or report, or request another project or something? I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. As Russell says, his wife, he says it to us all the time, no
That's
asking.
CRA related.
No asking, no getting.
Will you, does your comments, address some of the things that are going on now that are in the bill? Okay.
Okie dokie, and if they don't, just ask and we'll be
Okay.
able to help you.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we have a new issue, but it's not really an issue, but I wanted to let you two know, that commissioners know that Leon Wisner is no longer our dock master. He's resigned. So we don't have a dock master, a volunteer dock master in the event that you two were interested or.
Becoming such.
Yeah. So, if you know someone, Okay, and so we don't have anyone to take care of the clock tower either at this point. So if you hear that it's not running, you might not want to let us know because you might want some peace and quiet.
Be quiet.
Yeah.
Thought I slept good last night.
Okay, that's just a little news. Our next meeting is July the 16th and then October the 15th. And we'll have one budget workshop at least, maybe two in August or September. And then we can expect from it looks like our property values are gonna go up a little bit, it seems like. So our city portion on our tax increment was 120 this year, so we can expect that for revenues, or maybe a little more. The county's was 83, so we can expect that or a little more. We'll have to do our general fund budget before we can advise here on what the transfer from the general fund will be to get our total operating income for the next fiscal year.
You just did that.
No, I'm talking about the next fiscal year.
I know you are.
Yeah. And then we have, well, there's 417 to be transferred.
I thought,
And remember, our budget has fixed costs like the landscaping, insurance, utilities, attorney and engineering fees, and membership fees, and the accounting. And then we talked about things to consider, be thinking about it, what you might like to have for projects next year. We did talk about completing the irrigation system, replacing the light fixtures, and another one could be between now and budget workshops I think we directed you to do that in one of our meetings. The fencing. Get us a couple of prices on replacing the fencing along the boardwalk. And if y'all think of anything else, let Courtney know, especially if you think it needs a quote, to get us going. Somebody needs to contact Mary Lawhorn about the youth fishing tournament. She comes here for, I think, 500. She may have to go to the city for that, and if she comes every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to have her on the city general fund with the other donations to NPO and just have that regular, amount there. She's gonna be coming forward every year, and we never turn her down. And then, I told you about the TDC, what they're doing. Now, the FEMA 50% rule, Keisha went to her floodplain management class and came back and told us that it's not mandated to operate the 50% rule like we had assumed or felt like we were instructed back in 12 and 13. And other cities are not, and counties are not operating their 50% rule like we do. Yeah, and they, some cities and counties haven't even adopted a floodplain ordinance yet,
Right.
especially in South Florida. And so the rule can be varied, be accumulative or determined by each community individually. But all the repairs still have to be done according to Florida Building Code. So the commission motioned and it passed to request the attorney to draft an ordinance mandating the present floodplain ordinance, the ordinance that we have now, to amend that ordinance, allowing for the city to add an additional 20% to the 50% value that we now allow, and take that total 70% for improvements, that total cost or value, and let them complete that over a 1-year period instead of a 10-year period. And then we can rewind the clock and let them get it reappraised, their building value, and come back, and they'll come back with their building value, say it went up another 10,000, so we'll take the 50% of that, plus give them 20% and let them repair that again over the next year. Now, they'll be applying for building permits every year, but that's not a problem. They're generally applying, if they're gonna be doing a building in phases, they're gonna apply for building permits every now and then anyway. So, that's that. Lee County uses the 50% plus 20%, and they do it over a 5-year period. Collier County does it permit by permit, Wakulla County permit by permit. Naples does it the 50% plus 20% over, with the improvements to be completed over a 1-year period. So that will be an amendment to our floodplain ordinance, which the commission will take up, and you'll have a draft. Maybe we will that be a first reading, or?
It will, yes.
Okay.
Because
But
we go
you-
P and Z
Okay.
here.
All right, so seems like we'll have first reading in May, and then,
Oh, sorry, not in the flood, sorry.
yeah, that's another ordinance.
Okay,
Yeah, that's right, no, you're right.
Yeah, I thought we-
Right, right, no P and Z. no
And
P
as
and Z.
well, the P and Z was directed by the commission to take a look at R5 zoning, but C1 zoning as well, that's the commercial, where the CRA district is, to remove allowing mobile homes even by special exception in the commercial district. So they'll make a recommendation to the commission.
Oh, can I ask a question?
What is it?
Does that ordinance affect resident homeowners insurance?
You want to talk about that?
No, it does not. What it was suggested in the beginning, which they made us think it was mandated, the 10 years cumulative, is what they call a higher regulatory standard. And if you participate in the CRS, you get so many points for higher regulatory standards, which in essence gives you a discount on your flood insurance. The city is not in the CRS. The Franklin County is in the CRS, but the city's not. When we got to digging through, with this particular higher regulatory standard is only 40 points maximum. Now, you wouldn't even get the 40 points because they delete out every parcel that's not in the flood zone, so it only affects those ones that are in the flood zone that would be held to the 10-year. So in the city's case, you might only get 20 points, and it takes 500 points to get you to the 5% discount. So-
And we've been told that the city of Carrabelle would never really get any more than an 8 because we don't have stormwater management. Every street is not like Avenue B is going to be. With the
If we entered in now, we'd be a 9 with 600 points.
Mhm.
You'd have to get to over 1,000 to get to an 8. And that would take somebody full-time, year-round.
Then why wouldn't you increase it from, instead of 70% to 100%?
Well, now FEMA requires, if it's ever damaged more than 50% in one occurrence, it has to meet new standards. Any one occurrence. The higher regulatory standards, it does, we are still in the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program. So it's still good standings with them, just not necessarily on the CRS side. So you've got two sides to it. We're just not
We
doing
don't
the
get the
CRS.
discount. We just don't get the discount.
We just don't get the discount, but we can still participate in the National Flood Insurance by having the actual ordinance, the flood ordinance.
So what we were doing was kind of, following suit on what other cities were doing.
And we followed the county. The county did theirs, and the county has a very high class, or a good, really good class rating, for them. And that's why they were using every point they could get to try and move up, but even for them, it's not. They still can't get more than 40 points.
And they have, what kind of discount? If you're in the county, you have.
The
a
county
serious
has, I believe, a
discount.
15% discount, but you get over 1,000 points for open space in the flood zone, which majority of the forest is
Yeah.
flood zone, and that throws them into a whole new class just with open space. And we just can't never get that. We don't have the open space in the flood zone.
So it's really cost prohibitive for us to chase the CRS.
Yes, very. It would be more costly for us than we would actually be. We only have 37 policies in effect right now.
Insurance policies in the
Insurance
city.
policies,
Homeowners, right?
homeowners, right. And a lot of this 10% was affecting our business because right there on Main Street. Even though commercial can be mitigated and residential can't, flood-proofing, flow-through vents and such, it's just so cost-effective to go through that. And then, the insurance side of that, if you do have insurance, it gets costly there too.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation. And, but one thing this will do too, it will help speed along improvement of the blighted buildings. They can operate on a slow but steady pace instead of hurry up and wait another 10 years. And Mr. Bose is really, he's working on his project there, and I don't know if you've seen the Old Folks Realty, he's not in a flood zone, but he's updating his project, his building right here on the hill, and tell them about the Dollar General that it's going for.
Yeah, that'll be on the P&Z this Thursday if y'all want to join in. They're demolishing the 2 buildings across from Millender and Sons. They already have the demo permit there, and they've closed on the property, and they're building a brand new 10,000 square foot Dollar General.
You know, close to the one they got.
They don't own their buildings, they lease them. So I've spoke with Mr. Smith that owns the current Dollar General, and he's scrambling to try and find somebody to come and occupy that
We need
building.
a pharmacy.
I'm pushing that for him, you know, but
Okay.
most places
Something
want
like-
something with a drive-through, and that's what he's running into with the pharmacy.
Well, we'll bust a hole in it
It's already one there.
for you. Yeah.
What, does that have to go through several readings
For the Dollar General?
for the dollar?
No, it's just a site plan review, so P&Z will review it, the engineers already reviewed it, the building inspectors reviewed it. It's just a recommend for approval, and then the commission, will go before the commission on May 2nd, and they're ready to hit the ground running. They'll be waiting, Friday morning for that permit in their hand.
I see where the building next door, the U-shaped building's putting a restaurant in there. They just put up a sign.
And now I'm thinking we should have extended the CRA. Who would have known the Dollar General?
General,
was
I
on-
know.
Do we
Well, you
need
know,
to?
I seen where that
always
restaurant's
been
planning on
famous,
putting a
Sarah.
drive-through,
She covered as much of the
but
city
the
as
Dollar
possible.
General's gonna put a curb right there.
We can do it.
So that might hinder
Maybe
their
that's something we should
idea
do in our
of
slow
what they're
time.
doing there.
the drivers
Oh,
To where right now, the existing building there, you can go through the parking lot to get to the, mini mall there. Well, the Dollar General's required to put up a curb, so it'll separate the 2 businesses, so you can't pull through one parking lot to the other. Because the way their stormwater's set up, it's got a curb to flow it back down to the retention pond.
well, Rob wants to know how well are their drivers trained? Will they be driving over the?
They have a pretty sophisticated, they will actually have to pull up in the front and do a reverse backing up.
What?
No, I think theirs will be on the driver's
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
yeah, the way they pull in. They won't be blind,
All right then.
but we do have several businesses that are looking forward. Another thing with the 10 years, you had to use that very beginning, even if you put 20,000 into your building, you were still stuck at that very first assessed value, to where now it can be reassessed every year. And as you put money in, the value goes up, tax dollars go up,
CRA money.
CRA
Yeah.
money goes up, it's
So it's
a
you
win-win.
know, it's a stepping process, but you get there. All right, is there anything else we need to discuss?
Did you want to expand the CRA district today?
Let's do it, might as well take a vote.
No, they were just,
Well, do you have a suggestion where you'd like to expand it to?
no, but if we can, all the way to here.
We discussed that before.
And further, maybe further back into the, beyond Avenue B. More
Well,
residential.
the tax base is going up, so we really, if we're gonna do it, we
You have
gotta
to hustle.
hustle, because
It would be
that,
like,
when that goes in, that building there, and, the rest of them,
it'd be like putting the Carrabelle hustles to get the festival together, Carrabelle hustles to extend their CRA.
to keep that tax base.
So,
Because they wouldn't be subject to the existing
mhm.
values.
we have to get that, now I know to extend the
We have to
time,
do,
we have to
findings
go,
of necessity, we have to go through a whole process.
we have to go to the county to extend the,
But that's not, that's more of, they can object to it. Now, the law, I gotta check to make sure the law is the same as I remember it, because they are, even this session, they're talking about making changes again to CRA
I know it.
stuff, but it's normally, it's not a veto or anything they have, they can object to our, any sort of expansion. Remember, we've been through this back in the 10 years probably.
I know it,
During the
and
down.
I used to know all of the, I've forgotten, it would take a minute to brush up, but.
No, we have right now and everything on it. We,
When we last discussed it, there wasn't a lot of,
I wasn't desired to.
there wasn't a lot of energy that made us feel like there was a.
Way to progress, that there would be
We
any
were sort
income.
of
What we said was that the core district would be supporting this district. And also, there's
Would
something.
you keep the money separate? Is that what we talked about?
Yeah.
Like, the money that came in for that CRA and that tax base that's
No,
way down here?
We talk, the way I remember it, and everybody probably has a different way of remembering how we've talked about this a number of times, is, I think we talked about a number of scenarios, but when it's within the same CRA, it's all pooled money. We talked about setting up a separate CRA, I believe, like 2 separate CRAs, which you could do, but that got complicated. And then we also had concerns, I think, the way I recollect it was, even if we shouldn't even have a CRA anymore, like what that we were talking about sunsetting it in a couple of years anyway, so
I
why
guess-
expand it, you know, type thing.
The major concern is that it takes the money from the general fund. For instance, this year it was $120,000 from the general fund. That's the major concern. So, once you take all of these properties here, say you went from the Welcome Park out to here, now all of these properties would not be paying tax into the general fund. So,
Over the base amount?
It's
Yeah,
just the
base
base,
amount.
it's just that
Just
increment.
Just that increment amount.
I think we've seen the benefit of the CRA financially and the return of the money taken and applied to the CRA. It's more
When we
specific.
had millions of dollars,
More
now
specific.
it's gonna be a lot slower pace.
Yeah,
yes, Dan?
My always impassioned feeling on CRA, so I've worked on a number of other ones and things like this, I've talked about this. In this county, my understanding is, just again, everybody has their own opinions on this certainly, but that the county, we don't get the same level of service from the county itself for the amount of money we put in, whether it be, we get all we get our gas tax back, we get different pieces back, but we pave a lot of our own roads, we historically, we're not treated even as well as Apalachicola as far as what piece of county resources we get, even though our citizens all pay full county taxes, right? And the benefit to the CRA is that the county, and this is why the counties don't always like them, but Franklin County's never given us a hard time on the CRA, is it's locked in. Whatever that tax rate on that property base is on,
They have
the
to-
value on that property is today in the when it's brought into the CRA, that's it, forever. We get everything above that, so we get a pile, in theory, if property values go up, of money that would otherwise go to the county and may or may not come back to us in any way. That's the thing.
Well, back in 2004, 3, 4, or 4 and 5, the county was paying, compared to their 80 they pay now, $220,000 a year to the CRA.
And when I say this, though, exactly right, and so
Well,
that
the
money
value-
otherwise
because the
would have
value-
gone into the general fund of the county,
Yes,
right.
and we would have got back, anybody's guess, I mean, I don't know what, none of it, 70 grand, 100 grand, we wouldn't have gotten $220,000, so there's no way they would have.
A year, no.
A year, no way, okay, so that is a way to keep our citizens' tax dollars in the city. That's the point of CRAs. And the city pays its chunk of it, or we didn't, now we're paying it back in. But the city call it suffers a tad too, because we have, the same rule applies to us. So the increment above that of city taxes goes into the CRA also. But it's,
But
again,
we've also contributed back to city expenses.
all day
that-
long.
that the
We,
CRA
road project, water
We've
project,
done better
absolutely.
this past year about picking up things the city would have done
Yes,
because
yes.
they were the CRA district.
Like paying
So
them-
the CRA paid for them.
Yep.
Pay for utility bills. Don't
Yeah,
know
I
if that's.
mean, people, a lot of places use it for water and sewer improvements, everything else. I mean, it's.
That was my initial
But that's
grasp
another thing
of
out
the
this way, we
CRA.
don't
was-
have water and sewer out here.
I concur.
But there is, it's totally valid, there's two ways to look at it. I just strongly look at it as where you're in a county, where the county, we're not the beneficiaries of a lot of the tax dollars. We're not. We're last on the list. We get
All right.
whatever's left over after.
Do we want to have this on the next agenda, which is a long way away, July the 16th? Do we want to have a workshop on this?
I think a workshop would be worthwhile, just to be able to discuss the specifics like that come up that are difficult.
I almost want to look at what we've done in the past. We've drawn
I was gonna say,
maps and
we've
everything
got
else. Like,
maps
we've
out
done,
now.
we've
In
done a
all
lot of
different
work on
areas,
this.
all
But
of
a map going up,
67.
60, yeah,
We went on the
67.
other, we went up 67.
I don't
We
think we did
went,
anything
Doug Holt,
coming this
we couldn't
way.
go across the bridge.
Why not?
I thought we couldn't cross the bridge.
We can.
Can we?
If you're in the city.
Maybe we didn't have those drawings. We've been.
But it's
full circle.
literally that simple, is we literally draw it up, but then we have to do what they call findings of necessity. So, yes, that would be paying a consultant to, maybe staff could do it, but.
Well, I mean, you've got some written already, you've got that, I mean, like something that you could
We
refer
did,
to.
we did,
should
we
already
did,
have that.
we've done a fair, I mean, over
We've got
literally a
pretty far.
decade, we've talked about this, because we, the tax base, it was a terrible time.
It was low.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, terrible time. That was the window a lot of people were jumping on it, because it'll, in theory, never be that low again. But we're not out, I don't know what Rhonda, we talked to
No, we're
Rhonda,
not.
because we're still not out of that window. We still have an artificially low tax base now, I think, values.
All
They're
right.
going up, so.
And it wasn't just for businesses, because we could do it in residential areas and
Yeah.
improve life.
Uh-huh. So, if you want to have a workshop, we need to maybe go ahead and, schedule it. If if we're hustling, then we might not want to wait till July. We'll schedule it in May or June. Yay or nay?
I think if we're gonna talk about it, we should have a workshop and talk about it.
Yeah, I would think even just
Get
have
out.
or have a CRA meeting in May.
Well, our regular CRA meeting in May would have been the 21st, and in June, the 18th.
I'm for May myself.
Well,
I know where I am in May, I don't know where I am.
I know I'm getting a cough. Thought I brought cough drops, but I didn't. So,
If we could pull some of this material together, Marty.
yeah, we can do that, but, well, let's have a motion or not, it's the pleasure of the board. So we can move forward for adjournment.
To have a workshop.
All right,
I'll make a motion that we have a workshop in May,
May 21st,
May 21st.
1:30.
Sounds good.
to discuss, I beg your pardon?
To discuss the CRA. Either
Extension,
extension,
expansion.
expansion,
Does anybody have a problem moving it to the 14th and then?
I don't know. What you do?
Yeah, I don't think I would come in with
Well, what about the 28th? Give us a little more time to prepare for it.
That's the day after Memorial Day.
Oh, pardon.
Doesn't
It
matter to
is.
me, I just don't make it affect other people.
Do you have an idea, sir?
I'm looking at the suggestions, I'm good with all those. Now, the 21st, I was pretty booked up, but I could squeeze in that afternoon, so.
Well, let's see.
The 21st is when it's
But
gonna be.
no, the other 14th or the 28th.
Those are open for you?
I've got a problem with the 28th.
Okay, all right, well, can we pull it together by the 14th to have some items to discuss? That's 3 weeks from now, and I've probably got a whole folder on it.
Probably have a lot of stuff to start.
Okay, so that's May the 14th then. Is that okay, Keisha?
Uh-huh.
At 1:30? Is that, you want to amend your motion?
No, amended to the 14th.
To discuss expansion and extension?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so,
And then we can maybe get some stuff in advance, or if you have it, or you find it, or we can come here and look at it, or,
okay.
no,
So we'll be refreshed, all right. And then, do we have a second for that workshop?
Second.
Okay, so that's May and Millender.
Or 1:30?
Yes, on the 14th. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And that motion carries. Then, is there anything else? All right, maybe we have a motion to adjourn?
One quick thing.
Okay.
If Rob and Bo doesn't already know, just update on the derelict vessels at Renee's.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want me, or do you know, I didn't talk to him last time I was there.
Yeah.
But I only know what he's told me maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay, probably basically about the same. He has approval or response back from 4 of the 5, waiting on the last one to come in. And he hopes to have that one within the next month, if not before. And he says once he receives that one, it's on for pulling all those boats out of there.
Good news.
And we, talked to Fonda at the county, and he's gonna waive the tipping fees.
that would be fun to see.
Yep. And you guys know that what work he's doing in the old building and stuff.
So, yeah, so we fought it. Go down and look at it.
That was all.
Okay.
I had breakfast with him this morning. I thought
Good
about it.
update.
I like his attitude that he'll decide what he's gonna
Friendly
do
guy.
later.
Huh? Yeah, he
All
is
right.
that.
So, may we have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Second?
Second.
And, okay, so that's by Mr. Powis and second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? And that carries. And then we get pictures of the 2 buildings down there before they get demolished. One of them